If you surround average performers with one underperformer, it will decrease anybody in their radius of 25 feet by 15%.
Oh man, you're such an asshole, but you're my best friend. But there's gold in there and there's value as long as they have integrity.
His name's Bill Perkins. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, best-selling author, and he's just a stud. It turns out that being around other people, social interaction, friends or otherwise, actually decreases your happiness.
In the relay race of life, you never know if you're the starter or the finisher. You just run.
Oh, that's good. And he goes, well, is there any part of you that thinks that because you've been investing in small businesses for this long, small has infected your thinking? How have the best people in any industry achieved something incredible? I want to share a quick business tip that I've been thinking a lot about lately. It's eliminate, automate, delegate. So if you do tasks in that order in your business, it runs more smoothly. I'm always looking for tools to help eliminate tasks, then automate them, and then finally delegate those that are absolutely necessary. One of those tools is Riverside. Not only can it record 4K video and audio remotely to make sure your podcast quality is top notch, but it's also drastically improved my team's editing speed with the text-based editor. Transcribes your footage, removes silences in one click, and creates these short clips just by selecting the text. Even better, if you make a mistake, which we try not to do, you can delete the sentence and the transcript will delete it from your video instantly. So Riverside has an in-platform editor where you can upload your own content too. So it's not just footage recorded on Riverside that gets the special treatment. So how do people find new podcasts? Often from seeing clips, right? You see a bunch of mine. Riverside gets this, and that's why I like their AI Magic Clips. Analyzes moments in your podcast that have the most potential to get traction online. That saves hours of listening to your podcast for the 5th time to find the perfect clip. Riverside's got you covered. We're always trying to remove, automate, not add, and complicate. But don't waste your time doing what Riverside can do for you. I got you guys a deal. If you want to try it for yourself, get the Riverside link in the description and use the code CODY for an exclusive discount, just for y'all. Hi, it's Codie Sanchez, and this is the Bigdeal podcast for those who not only just want to get rich, but free, and are actually willing to do the work to do it. All right, lucky for you guys today, I got Bill Perkins, one of my favorite humans in the world, worth hundreds of millions of dollars, best-selling author, to come and share some of his advice on underperformers and how to make sure you're surrounded by pro performers. This week, I'm going to be on a little bit of a rant. And the rant is about the underperformers in your life that are costing you tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands a year. We're going to ask if this quote is really real. That is, you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And it turns out it's worse than that. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of it all, I think we're going to start with a contrarian idea. Maybe you'll love it, maybe you'll hate it. Rachel, what's the contrarian idea this week?
So the contrarian idea actually comes from a tweet you wrote, and it says, personal growth hack, be the dumbest one in your friend group, then move on when you're not. And that got some people pretty feisty in the comment section. So that's what we're working with today.
Well, listen, I'm not trying to tell people to not make friends or to cut your friends when you're done, but I am here to tell you the things that nobody will, because they actually work as opposed to sound PC. I have very little interest in being PC on the interwebs because that's one of the beautiful parts about financial freedom. The truth of the matter is as often as possible, you can level up where you are the low man on the totem pole to the people around you. The faster you do that, the faster you can steal somebody's 10,000 hours. And then if you want to give back to the other people in your life, which is a beautiful thing to do, you do that. But you do that thoughtfully as opposed to turn out like Entourage. Adrian Grenier, he was this famous actor, and he brought along a bunch of idiots that essentially were funny for the show, but not so great for his career. And I feel like that's what happens with a lot of us. Just because you started out with one group doesn't mean you should finish with them. And it doesn't mean they're less than you. It doesn't mean you're more than them. It simply means that you guys are moving at different speeds on a marathon. And so as often as I can remember to tell myself that I can still have love and respect for the people who aren't at my speed, because I'm fucking psycho and you guys probably are too, the more I achieve in life and the more you are going to achieve. So that's what I mean. But, you know, Twitter's ticked. So you guys can write your angry comments too, or you can make some money. Up to you.
I guess I have another question for you, though, off of that. Have you ever been dropped in that situation where somebody felt like you were holding them back? And, like, how did that conversation go and how did you handle it?
Probably, I'm sure. Actually, totally, 100%. I mean, a couple times I can think of. One, when I got divorced, basically all my friends dropped me. The second I got divorced, they all went with my husband, who was in Dallas at the time. They were all sort of married couples at the country club. I didn't fit in anymore. And it didn't feel great, for sure. But we just weren't on the same path. So at the end of the day, I didn't really get upset at them. I don't know if they got upset with me. I wish them nothing but well. But we went our separate ways. And I don't think it has to be some big dramatic standoff. In fact, I think that's your ego talking. If you think you need to explain to the other person why you're superior to them and no longer engaging, you can just stop engaging so much. And I'm sure there have been people in my life where they've moved forward without me. And it's just a natural progression. It doesn't have to have some emotional charge to it.
So you had a really good tweet, and it was actually about Bill Perkins, but I want to read the second part where you said, I took a deep breath. He's right. You need to shed the bullshit or you'll never be truly big. And you kind of talked about how that hurt you. And I think that was just a very impactful thing that anybody who's listening can take a lot out of.
Yeah. True friends are the ones that tell you to do more, not less. This week, I'm on a rampage. And the rampage is about one thing. Do you guys remember this quote? You are the average of the 5 people you spend time with, right? Oldie but a goodie. It turns out that the truth is even more aggressive than that quote. And so we thought we'd break down the numbers through the narrative and see what it actually means. Because it turns out that if you hang out with underperformers, they can cost you $100,000 plus a year. And ain't nobody got time for that. So let's break this down a little bit. Oh, and if you guys don't know me, I'm Codie. I've been in private equity and investing for 13 plus years, run contrarian thinking media company, and 20 plus what I call boring businesses that do 9 figures in revenue. Everything we do here is to create more owners in a world of consumers. All right. Now, contrarian idea is how we start this. I wrote this tweet, which people hated on the internet. It said, personal growth hack, be the dumbest one in your friend group and then move on when you're not. To which a bunch of people on the internet said, Codie, are you telling us not to make friends? Do you just ditch people? You're terrible. This is no way friendship should actually work. And I thought, let's pause on this. As opposed to getting triggered based on emotions, what do the numbers tell us? And the numbers are fascinating. So there was a research study that was actually conducted at a large tech company where the founders found some interesting statistics that has led to a lot of the way workplace culture happens today. This is how it went. Imagine this. If you are an overperformer and you are placed in a group of normal performers, that overperformer will help increase the performance of everybody else by 15%. So if you're by a badass, you turn into 15% more of a badass yourself. Now, the problem is, if you sit next to an underperformer, if an underperformer is sat within a 25-foot radius of a bunch of normal people like you and me, they take your performance down by 30%. So think about that for a second. It's not only that you're the average of the 5 people who you surround yourself with, it's that being around great people increases you a bit. Being around not so great people decreases you 2x more than that. So it turns out it's not just a mean tweet. There's some reality here. And Dylan Miner, who is a professor at the Kellogg School, basically referred to this as positive spillover, which he says creates about 1 million in additional annual profits. You have overperformers sit next to normal performers. And can you imagine then that that means that there's probably double that in annual drag on a company or on you? And that's why I started thinking about it as this $100,000 mark. If we think about our goals and what we want to achieve, let's say that you make $100,000 a year right now and you sit next to a performer every single day. How much do you lose potentially by sitting next to that performer? Well, if it's dollar for dollar, that basically means that you're losing $30,000 a year based on catching that energy from somebody who is not at your level. Now, the question then becomes, what do you do about this, right? And we get that question all the time. Like, so, okay, so you're just mean to people, you move away from others. And I don't think that's the answer. I think you get in rooms where other people's realities are your dreams. I think about like this. people know that six packs aren't contagious. Just because Tanner, who's sitting here next to me, might have one of those doesn't mean that I just get it from hanging out with Tanner more, except that maybe it actually does. Because what happens, and the studies seem to back this up, is the more you hang around people who already do the activities that for you are goals, not habits, the more likely you are for those goals to become habits. And so you'll notice quickly, if you're with a group of people who drink a lot, what happens? You drink a lot. If you're with a group of people that don't drink at all, it'd be kind of weird if you were hammered by yourself. And so that baseline activity just increases the likelihood of you going to succeed. And we've all felt it. You've been around friends who have that positive push on you in your life. The thought that I then went to next was, is more friends better? Right? Is more friends better? And should we then hang out with more people, less people in our pursuit of quote unquote excellence? And so I found this study by the British Journal of Psychology, which is sure to trigger the internet because it's kind of wild. And it basically talks about something called ancestral versus modern tendencies. And ancestral tendencies are basically things like humans are generally happier with lower population density, meaning, not in New York City. They're probably happier in more open rural locations. And that humans tend to be happier when they're around other people, aka their friends, more often. So we're not very happy in huge city centers, but we are a little bit happier when we're around our friends more often. Makes sense, right? There's one issue though. As someone climbs the intelligence curve, aka they become more and more intelligent as measured by IQ, it turns out that being around other people, social interaction, friends or otherwise, actually decreases your happiness. And the reason I thought this was interesting is because I don't know if you, like me, have often been told you should hang out with your friends more. Why are you working so much? You can kind of take it easy. The weekends are for hanging out and not working. And that's never really resonated with me because I'm so much less interested in pickleball and pottery than I am in building something and talking about it. In fact, I can't think of anything more atrocious than having to sit and listen to somebody talk about PTA meetings, the weather. What did you do this weekend? It's probably the reason why I'm unemployable, because if I had to come back into corporate America on Monday morning and listen to that, I would end it all. And what's fascinating, I think, is that when you hear these studies, it removes this belief that there's a common narrative, and that common narrative actually doesn't mean that that's the truth. And at contrarian thinking, we're always sort of striving for that. What is the noise and what do the numbers tell us? And so if you guys want to see the study, we'll put it in the show notes, and you can send this to all your friends when they try to get you to go out on Friday night. And you can tell them, no, I'm too smart for this shit. Okay. The second thing I wanted to talk about is the next question then becomes, okay, so if it's true that you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with, and if it's also true that being around people more often isn't necessarily a contributor to your happiness or success, then how do you say no? And how do you push people out that shouldn't be in your circle without being a jerk, and doing it in a way that doesn't leave people with a feeling from you that, one, makes the personal people pleaser inside of you want to die on the inside, and also leads to actual performance in your life. And so I have this friend, Alex Hormozy, and we talk a lot. And perhaps you're like me, and I'm a people pleaser. So I'm a Latina, I'm a woman, I was in sales, and it seemed like the easiest ways for me to get people to like me were just to say yes to things all the time. And I felt a sense of guilt deep in my gut anytime I didn't say yes to people. I had to come up with a lot of excuses. Sometimes I would lie. And I'd feel like I was letting people down constantly. I don't know if you've ever felt this same way. Turns out it's very common, though, that we are not used to in modern society saying no, especially with a period at the end of it. And so I thought I'd use some of his advice to help you become your friendly neighborhood no dealer. And basically, we have a little accountability thing that we do. And I told him I had this issue. And so he said, I'm going to send you a screenshot of every time somebody asks something of me and I say no. And you can just see all the ways that I say no, and you can see how the interaction goes. And he's like, and I'd like you to do the same thing. Shoot me a screenshot of when you say no. And so I always send him screenshots now. And I'm like, how proud of me are you? And the screenshots then aligned to a positive feeling, aka we get an endorphin rush, we have adrenaline, we have these natural states which tell our body that the thing I am doing right now is actually a good thing, as opposed to that sinking feeling you get when you usually tell people something no, and you kind of wait for their response and then you over explain. And so, you know, the last text, and I had it here, I thought was kind of interesting. I basically, from back in the day, I had this woman reach out to me. She used to work in one of my businesses. We didn't have the most positive interaction in that last endeavor. And she pinged me saying, hey, I've been seeing you all over social and I'd love to do XYZ thing to you or for you. But, you know, so would you like to use my services? Which is funny to me. One, I think, generally, when you want something from somebody, you should lead with a give, not an ask. So if I was this woman, I would have said, hey, looks like you're doing well in life. Haven't talked in a long time. I provide this service. Here's this thing for free. You know, if I can ever do anything to help you, let me know. I'd love to talk about it more. Okay, cool. Maybe I could get on board with that. But like, hey, I've got an idea for you. Do you want to pay me for the idea? I'm not that interested. Now, typically I would give a lot of excuses as to why, but because Alex and I are working on this, I just said, no, thank you, period. Hope you're well, exclamation point. No explanation, no excuses. And I tried to explain this to my dad afterwards. So I called him and was like, Dad, I'm really trying to get good at this thing called saying no to people about stuff. And he's like, yeah, that's great. You know, what you should do is just say, no, that doesn't work for me, or no, I'm not interested in that moment. And I'm like, absolutely not. That is the wrong way to do it. That thing where you say, no, that doesn't work for me. No, I'm not that interested in it. Then it opens the door. You're leaving open a little wedge for somebody to come back to you and say, hey, why aren't you interested? Why doesn't that work for you? If I just say no, thank you, there's no door. There's no crack in the door. It's closed. So why is it that more intelligent people don't actually like hanging out with other people all the time and have to learn how to say no continuously? And I think it's a couple different things. As you get to the crazy end of the curve on intelligence, there's also typically some aspect of being on the spectrum, which usually means like singular focus, which I think makes a lot of sense. I also think it's because the best performers have to narrow down their aperture as opposed to widen it to have unfair levels of success. So if you think about it this way, how have the best people in any industry achieved something incredible? Is it by doing what is average, normal, or shallow? Absolutely not. They go deep into one segment. They spend 80 hours working, 90 hours working instead of 40 hours working. And typically when you do those things and you narrow your aperture, the whole world doesn't quite understand it. So it actually made sense to me. I have a deal that I did that I invested in a company with a guy that ended up not being a good friend to have in my ecosystem. And it came with a big, huge price tag. I lost a ton of money by not paying attention to the people that you let into your sphere. And instead of the six-pack transferring, basically six figures transferred out. And that is the cost of having people in your sphere that are not on your level. And it's often really expensive. So what happened is I had bought a company from a partner, and he used these two words that I realized were dangerous. And those are lifestyle investor. Basically, I realized too late that this guy was more interested in having a company serve him than serving the company, and was more interested in this elusive term passive income that I'm pretty convinced does not actually exist. And so I bought a company with him. I put up most of the capital for the company. He put up the sweat equity, the work, the labor for the company. And then I started watching it for a few months, and it worked out okay, except as I started seeing the numbers, there seemed to be a few anomalies in there. The numbers weren't exactly matching what I thought the company should be doing. And as I started talking to him, what I realized is he was basically layering all these other costs inside of the business. So instead of him actually operating the company, he had hired a VA first. Okay, fine. Then he had hired an operator to replace himself. Then he had hired a VA for his operator. And so by this time, about $20,000 worth of monthly costs in this business were being added, and he really wasn't working in the business, but I was funding his lifestyle and this new additional operator. And the teaching moment there, I think, it's that the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior. And so if you are around friends who already don't drink, work out, work hard, it is likely that they are going to continue that behavior. It is unlikely that that group of people is going to 180 change the behavior that they currently do today and have done in their recent past. But for some reason, when we meet somebody and we start to do deals with them or we start to work with them, we don't necessarily look at their past behavior. They tell us things like this guy did, which was, yeah, my past partner really didn't work out. He was too involved in everything and he wanted to know what's going on inside of the business all the time and he wouldn't just let me run with it. What does that actually mean? That red flag actually means that he didn't report out well to his other partner, that he was probably underperforming, and that this other partner just wanted to get more intel, which is exactly what happened to me. So if you want to see somebody's future with you, look at their past with somebody else. And that's what I realized with this friendship that became a partnership that became a 6-figure loss for me. I think, let's call this loss probably something in the realm of $100,000 to $150,000, not counting how much time we spent on this deal and me having to parachute a bunch of people in there to actually fix this company and take it over. Now, the question then becomes, how do you move out a person like this from your life? And we're going to get to that in a little bit. We're going to get to this idea of how do you get somebody out of your life? Let's say that you have a partner, a friend, a colleague like that. Whether it's somebody who think is actually underperforming, here's a number, they're supposed to hit it, it's not. Or what I think might be more insidious, which is the energy suck. Now, this partner that I had was really underperforming in this business, obviously. I was scared to push him out or get rid of him in the company. And yet, every time I got on a phone call with him or met with him, I left the meeting depleted and just like frustrated almost every time. And so I worked up the nerve and I finally fired him, probably like a year later than I should have. And it got really ugly. He was mad, he was yelling, he tried to sue me, he threw a fit, he sent angry letters. But what actually happened? In the 1 month following his departure, we did our first $1 million in sales that month. And we grew by like 175, 176%. The moral of the story is when you think somebody is not a fit for you, the truth is they probably haven't been a fit for you for a very long time. And so you should cut the ties early. Now, there's 2 things I use to tell if I have one of those people in my life right now, and that you can use to tell if you have one of those people in your life. How do you tell 15%ers versus 30%ers? There's one thing I use called pay-per-view, which basically means past, people, victim. So if you find your friend always talking about people. So, Sally did this. Can you believe Bob did this yesterday? Well, I found out about such and such. If they're talking about people, giant red flag, they're probably not moving forward because they're more interested in gossiping about those around them. If they talk about their past a lot, aka nostalgia, well, it used to be like this. And do you remember back in the day we did this? And do you remember this happened there? What that means is they're not looking to build in the future. They're stuck in either their highlight reel or they're stuck in sort of their victim circle, which gets to the next point, which is victim. When it comes to a victim, this one's really easy. They start talking about how something bad happened to them. Every time you get on the phone, you realize you both start bitching about stuff almost immediately. Everybody has that friend where you don't mean to, but you just immediately start talking gossip as well. You start actually talking about negative things in your life going on, and it's just really easy to slip into victimhood and complaint mode. If those 3 things take up more than 20% of any conversation, you should move on. You can wish them love, you can wish them light, but you don't need to let them control your future, which is what you're doing for every moment of time you spend with humans who are in their pay-per-view mode. Now, I want you to try something for me. Picture in your head that friend or colleague that you kind of need to move on, or you think you should. There's that person that you're like, they're probably not right for me. You have that human in your head right now. All of us do. We typically at some point all have one person in our ecosystem that if you're a boss, it's your employee, that if you're an employee, it's a colleague, that if you're a friend, it's maybe your boyfriend or husband's friend. And I want you to picture them. And then I want you to give them a ring this week or go to coffee with them or something this week. And while you're there, sit and do one thing for me. See how you feel. See how you feel engaging with them in that current exact moment. But more importantly, how do you feel when you're done? So typically by the time I'm done with what I'll call an energy suck or a pay-per-view person, I feel less inspired than I did at the start of the conversation. I feel like I might need to go for a walk or get a coffee. I feel like I have performed in some way, shape, or form. There's no fueled up. I feel a little depleted. And that is going to be your instant signal that this is an underperformer, not an overperformer for you. Now, the important part here is like, you're not a saint and they're not a devil, and nobody's good or bad completely. It's just relative context of where you're at and where they're at and where you want to go. And so I sort of think about it like a triangle. If you're trying to get up here on the top of the triangle and your friend's focused on being down here, it's not that they're worse than you or better than you, but at this moment, you're outpacing them. And you don't want to run a marathon at the rate that the lowest performer that you know goes. You want to run it at your rate. And let me just tell you, I have lived this in a lot of real ways. But one of the other fast ways to know if you're with underperformers or not is to get around really, really big performers. I thought I'd tell you a story about this guy. His name's Bill Perkins. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He actually wrote that book, Die with Zero. Great book, best-selling author. He's a hedge fund manager and a professional poker player. And he's just a stud. And I met Bill because we both invested in a company called Skyfi as a startup investment. And we were both on a panel and we just jived. And so we started talking. And now Bill's much more successful than I am monetarily. And so I was pretty me But he texted me one day and was like, I want to talk to you about some of the stuff you're working on. Why don't you come out to my house? I'm like, all right, that's cool. So me and my husband go out there. And as we're driving, we pull up. It's like, gate number 1, enter the code. Gate number 2, enter the code. Gate number 3. And if you have 3 gates, you have a lot of money, I've determined by now. So anyway, we get over onto this massive compound. It's overlooking this lake. It's like got multiple houses on it. And I'm late. So I'm typically late. It's a terrible trait of mine. I'm stressed. We're rushing to get to him. So we pull up and I'm like, Bill, I'm so sorry. We're late. We won't take up very much of your time. We'll be in and out. Don't worry about it. And he's like, no, I'm here for you. It's no problem. I'm like, yes, but we won't take up much of your time. And I'm like, he's like, stops me, puts his hand out. And he's like, I'm here for you today for as much time as you'll give me. And I kind of looked at him like, why? So I'm like, okay, well, let's sit down and talk. And so we start sitting down and talking. He's like, tell me about what you're working on right now. So I start prattling off all the stuff about contrarian thinking and all these businesses we own and how I'm building this portfolio. And I think I'm being pretty impressive, to be honest. I'm like, 9 figures, baby. And here's like the 20 plus businesses we own. And we get 100 million views a month. And I don't think there's anybody growing faster on these varying platforms. And he's like nodding his head. He's super nice. And then he kind of pauses and looks at me. And he goes, well, is there any part of you that thinks that because you've been investing in small businesses for this long, small has infected your thinking? And I kind of like, I'm not sure what I do, but I'm taken aback. And I'm like, well, I don't know what you mean by that. And he's like, I think you could own the entire ecosystem of small business. I think you have a once in a generational opportunity to do this, and you're just not trying. And then we kept conversating and we had a nice chat at the end of it, but I couldn't get it out of my head. It was like that little splinter lodged into your finger that you can't wiggle out. And so I started talking to my husband about it, and I realized that because Bill has, let's say, billions, and I'm playing with millions, tens of millions, and, getting to 9 figures, he just sees the world differently than I am. It's the difference between the person who makes their first $30, $50, $100,000 and the one who makes their first million, 10, and 100 million. There's a chasm as big as the Grand Canyon. And that conversation changed a lot for me because now every so often he'll send me a little text like this. Well, he likes WhatsApp, and he'll just say, so do you want to be a billionaire? And then he'll send me some article about somebody that's building something faster than I am. And my point and Bill's point is, I think this: you need friends who are so interested in seeing you succeed that they see you as larger than anything you could imagine yourself. If you don't have friends who want you to be bigger than they are and who in fact think that you are playing small when you play to your biggest dreams, you need to get new friends. And it turns out this is actually harder to do than you would think. I have another couple of really successful friends, and they basically said, it turns out the 80-20 rule, Pareto's principle, is real everywhere, which means 80% of the results are driven by 20% of the things. Or in nature, just about everything has an 80-20 principle. And with friends, it's the same thing. 80% of the people you interact with are not going to want you to be 1 cent more successful than they are. They want you to be just below where they are. And then you find the 20%. And the 20% are so inspired by seeing you win because they know that it just means that they can do more if you can do more, that there's this abundance game as opposed to a scarcity mindset. And so now I've started to look at my group of friends. And once you share a win once with somebody and they come back with, you must be working a lot because you did that. Or, wow, that's a big risk. Why are you taking that? They're allowed 1, but they don't get 2. Because the second that you have a friend give you 2 and say, maybe you should play smaller instead of why are you thinking so small, is when you know the friend hasn't had your best interests. And you need more friends whose response is that you are not doing enough. Think about the last time somebody said that to you. It's probably pretty rare. Bill Perkins and I became friends because he was one of the few humans who said, you could be doing more, stop settling for less. We don't need more humans in our life telling us why it's okay that we are not performing. We do not need more humans telling us that we are small, incapable, that it's not impossible, but for you it is. What we do need are more humans that push us to the next level. And that's what I hope my rich friends can teach you, because they sure as fuck push me.
Bring the band in. Let's go.
Well, one, I was just talking about like getting an assistant, and that's a big thing that you've pushed on me and a lot of people.
Right.
Why is that?
Well, I value your time, and I don't think you value your time. So, you described some of the activities that you were doing and that you were having to do, and I was like, if I ran a business, would I put Cody in charge of filling up the gas tank, worrying about whether there's skim milk or oat milk or whatever milk you drink? I wouldn't do that. That would be kind of horrible for running my business. And you run many businesses and you're a very busy person. And so I want you to value your time the same way I value your time.
So good. So a lot of people, I think, have friends that tell them the opposite of that all the time, right? They say, why would you have somebody else do that? Aren't you scared? Do you think you're better than that? When did your mindset shift to start giving yourself permission for even ideas like that?
I guess it was, kind of through osmosis and seeing a lot of books that I've read about effective allocation of resources. And so one of the things you have to effectively allocate is your own resource. And I don't think people think of themselves that way as a resource for my family. Does my family think I should be working my hours doing that? Do my future kids think that I should be working that way? No, they want to maximize the return. How about the charities that I donate to? They basically get a percentage of what I earn. Right? Like, did I make this much this year? This is my taxes. This is a percent. I ship it out. I can tell you right now, they're all sitting there. I mean, they don't know, but they're thinking if they could have a lens like, no, Bill Perkins, don't work on that. Spend your neurons and your time working on this business or this multi-million-dollar idea. Don't make the bed. Don't clean the sheets. Don't do whatever. Please pay somebody to do that. And so I have an obligation to others to effectively allocate my time to my goals, to my ambitions. And so I don't look at it as like I'm better than somebody. I just think that I'm better suited doing certain things and other people are better suited doing other things. And plus, they get to save their money, learn, and move up the chain. I once swept floors and waited tables and got fired from that job because I was terrible. But yes,
It's so true. I mean, you talk about the allocation of resources and the time of Bill. And the way I see your mind work, I can see you allocating it actively as we speak. Was that part of you being a trader, part of you being a poker player? Was that really just from reading other people's books? And when was the first moment that changed? Do you remember?
It changed very early on. I think.
How much money do you think you made when it changed?
I was broke.
You still thought that way?
Yes, because there were a lot of books out that were like, invest in yourself, invest in yourself, invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So when I buy somebody else's time to do the other things, I'm making an investment in myself, right? And so it's kind of the question, it's a little bit of arrogance too. Like, if you give me 4 extra hours a day, I'm going to kill it, right? If you give me an extra hour a day, I'm going to kill it. Like, I'm going to make way more than the prevailing, wage rate over time. Yeah. And so there's that belief, right? That kind of like optimistic, delusional belief that I can kill it, and I invested in myself. And there's other books, Effective Allocation of Resources, Invest in Yourself, Think and Grow Rich. These type of things had the thought, it's like, okay, there's no way I'm supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z when I have these big dreams, these ideas, this ability to analyze this very fat world with lots of opportunities. This is where I belong in the chain.
It's so good. Yeah, I remember vividly, we were walking here, and I think what happens when you have any sort of success, and I've had some and you've had a lot, is people stop telling you the things that you should hear. Right. And you did such a cool favor to me, which is you kind of looked at me after we had this in-depth conversation, and you said, do you think that investing in small businesses for so long has infected your thinking to becoming small? And I think a lot of people, if you heard something like that, they would immediately go defend, attack. And it was such a gift, actually, because I heard that statement and I was like, oh my God, he's right. And what a gift that I could then kind of level up a little bit higher. When you think about the people that you allow in your ecosystem, because you get to gift them things like that, and the things they say to you probably also embed into your psyche, how do you determine who's in Bill's friends group and who does Bill spend time with?
Wow. People have different types of friends, right, in your friends groups that I'm able to give value to. One of the things is that I have to be of value to some way. Either the goofy Bill, party Bill, go banana Bill, the analytical Bill, the mediator, kind of high integrity Bill. So I have to be able to provide value to you because I don't want to be just sucking from somebody else. Like, I got to be a friend in order to have a friend. So I look at it that first. And then the second thing is I look kind of, can I trust this person? The integrity. And then whatever wacky stuff is coming out, there's going to be gold in there, right? Like, when you're mining for gold or lithium or whatever, it's like 1% or 3% or 0.6%, right? Like, I think that's kind of true with like human beings, right? Like, we got all the stuff, right? But there's gold, right? And so you can have friends with that, like, oh man, you're such an asshole, but you're my best friend. You know what I mean? Or you're such a whatever, but there's gold in there and there's value as long as they have integrity and as long as they have trust.
Is there a way that you test for integrity?
Unfortunately or fortunately, I trust first. I'm very generous and trusting first. And then I have a very big filter to okay, and then depending on the level of breaches of integrity towards me and or others, you kind of move out of those concentric circles, right?
Yeah, and do you think, is there somebody who for you, when you meet with them, they hit you with stuff like that statement you said to me? Like, is there somebody who every time you sit down with them, you're like, fuck, I should be doing bigger. I should be doing more.
Wow. Wow. There aren't the people. I generally am the most delusional of my friends, and I think that's a requirement. That puts you in the arena. Doesn't mean you're going to succeed. Doesn't mean you're going to swim upstream. It just means you're in the arena and you're in the stream and you're swimming. And I think I'm pretty delusional. So I have to look towards other visionaries, and you can go to a TED conference or you can hang around in Austin. And I sit down with these people and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? I've been slacking. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm slacking, and they're out there here in Austin when you meet them. And thank God Austin is one of those places where it's just so dialed back. Everybody's just I'm just a human. You can meet anybody, talk to anybody, and then you find out they're working on the most interesting, complex, visionary things. And so I've kind of been looking at like these long-term visionary guys who are I don't know, slim chance of success, 20-year outcome type goals. And I'm thinking, okay, this is the big type of thinking. I get inspiration from people around me. But unfortunately, I think I'm the most delusional. Actually, my friend John Arnold, he was the most successful commodities trader since the rice trading markets, called in rich and wanted to do philanthropy. And he wanted to have analytical, impactful philanthropy. And he's attacking very, very big problems, which are seemingly intractable, like pension reform, education reform, medical and healthcare reform, prison reform, these things that people may find hopeless or not able to make any change. And he has just a very methodical, long-range, data-driven vision that he's executing on. And so, you know, even though I might be doing something different, I can look at what John's doing and the type of problems he's tackling and the dedication and the work and the small wins that he can get to hopefully change the world. And so, you know, that kind of changed my thinking into like, what am I doing in these startups and what am I doing in businesses? And then I went a long time ago when I was divorced on a date, and I was going on a lot of dates, and I was coached to go on dates to discover what I liked. Yeah. And someone said to me a line I'll never forget. They were working in banking, and they were part of changing banking culture about reporting problems, et cetera. And I was very, very dismissive, like, oh my gosh, that's never going to change. You're never going to change the culture. And she said to me, in the relay race of life, you never know if you're the starter or the finisher. You just run.
Ooh, that's good.
And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I stole that. I use it all the time. And so it's kind of like everybody has a part to play in life. And so I may not cross the finish line, but I can advance the cause. And so I look at people who are like that.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, you know, we were talking about this study we found that basically talks about distance between under and over performers and the effect on the average or median employee. And so basically, if you're around people who are bottom quartile, what effect does it have? If you're around people that are top quartile, what effect does it have? And for the average person, it actually seems like performance is contagious in some way, shape, or form, which is fascinating from a company culture perspective because it tells us the thing we know as leaders, which is if you have a cancer, you've got to let it go.
Correct.
And quickly. And yet I hadn't thought about it that much in my personal life or friends. And so that's the whole point of this episode is us obsessing on what do you allow to be contagious. But you have sort of an interesting perspective in that it doesn't seem to me like you let a lot of negative things become contagious to you. You have friends that are crazy,
yes.
Dan Blazarian,
yes.
right? You have friends that are brilliant,
yes.
huge names, and you allow sort of varying parts of them into your life. Is there a way that you don't allow the contagion to spread negatively?
Well, I wouldn't say it's like I have 100% filter,
Yeah.
right? But what I say is, what I try and do is that everybody has something to offer.
Yeah.
Everybody has, and you have to mine, right? So you go from your first principles and try and stay you, but also mine what's great about them, right? Like I have brilliant friends with low EQ. I have high EQ friends that are not brilliant. I have crazy friends that are just like, hey, when it's time for you to go crazy, this is the crew. This is the crew, right? Like, not that crew, this crew, right? Like,
yeah.
And so you know, I try and, you know, everybody's multifaceted, right? Like I have many, many, many facets. You have many, many, many facets, and it's like each one of those can be improved upon or need to be addressed or let loose at times. And so I try and have that menagerie and get that value out of it.
How often do you let people into your sphere and ecosystem? Like, are you around friends and family every single day? Is it a once a week occurrence? Do you prefer to be by yourself?
I'm usually a homebody. I'm around Lara all the time, my wife. She's the boat driver, off camera. Yeah, it's tough because, you know, most of the things where I have an impact are my brain. Right, it's just kind of like, think of this, email that, whatever. So, you know, as a knowledge worker, even though I'm interacting through devices to communicate with people, it's generally me in solitude having the most impact, you know. But I generally, people are easily let in when they have enthusiasm in their field, and I just become fascinated and I want to learn. And so I dig in and I want to know, and I want to know what makes them tick and why are they thinking this way. And that's crazy. I wouldn't do that. Why are you doing this? Well, you know, and then you get this, and then that really draws me into people, and I learn like what is it about their life, their upbringing, their nature and their nurture that made this human, you know, that put them on this quest in life. And I just find a lot of people fascinating.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's very easy that if you're a trustworthy human being, you know, I can easily be fascinated by you if you're on some quest. Even the quests that are going to fail.
Yeah.
Like, I think we overrate failures versus bold attempts. I mean, you know, overrate success versus bold attempts. You know?
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking about that because you've inspired me a lot to think bigger in my acquisition strategy.
Right.
And so we share back and forth during businesses. And you'll say, what do you think about this one? I'm like, oh, I hate that model, but I like this one aspect of it.
Right.
And I don't think I've ever seen a model that I hate every aspect. I'm always like, fuck, that one thing's really, really smart. And like, we should steal that component and that component.
Right.
So I can see the ore in the humans and the ideas.
Yeah.
And you're sort of like picking petals off the flower as opposed to the whole thing.
Right.
So that makes a lot of sense. What about... maybe sort of my last question on this direction is we, and definitely I bet you, spend a ton of time working. And you've built a ton of companies. You've put operators into those companies, like a few that we've invested in together.
Right.
How do you decide who's going to be a winner in your company and become part of one of your endeavors?
Wow. We have a saying, it's always an HR problem, right? Because people have brilliant ideas and they're like, yeah, we're going to do this, and then we're going to have this person do this and this, and it's like, okay, now we got to go find out who's going to be the actual person executing. Yeah. Who am I going to trust? Who's going to be a leader? Who's going to be able to bring in more people, align them on the vision, and execute? And that is like one of the hardest things to do. I've tapped networks, and particularly here in Austin, you know, for the one we had, you know, was the Uber Mafia. And these are all ex-Uber people who worked hard at Uber, were, you know, senior, have gone on in their own things, but they know all these leaders. I know this guy, he's a badass, and this person. I had, like, through talking to one person, Nikhil, he introduced me to like 7 to 10 people who may get the vision and are qualified to run it. Far more qualified than I am, right? Like, generally, you know, I think it was Think and Grow Rich that said you'd rather invest in the efforts of, have 1% of the efforts of 100% of 100 people than 100% of the efforts of one person, even if that person is yourself. Now, there's probably an edge case exception, right? But, you know, I took that to heart. It's like, oh, I'd rather have brilliant people working for me than me trying to learn everything and be effective on them. Plus, I just can't. Like, the odds of me being the best guy for the job are extremely slim, right? Or girl. And so going out, tapping your networks, interviewing, finding people of integrity, and then, you know, using your network for the skills test, and then just trust. I don't know. I'm always guessing a little bit, but it's an educated guess, and then we're just going to find out.
Yeah. What about when you do it for companies for types of companies you haven't run before? Like, you've put operators in tech companies that I've seen, SaaS companies, obviously inside of your actual commodities funds. Is there a common thread, or is there a different type of human you're looking for dependent on industry? Usually
it's a self-motivated fire and forget missile. Like, I'm always trying to fire and forget missiles. Like, I just want to, that's where I want to go. I want to hit that target, shoot it up in the air, and they, boom, and they hit the target. Yeah. I don't have to tell them, I tell them what I want, not how to do it, right? And so having had a hedge fund and having, you know, Eric, my CTO, was like, this guy taught him machine learning and OCR and built a whole model for tracking LNG ships in this display. And we used it. I was like, okay, this is the type of person I want. And so in your universe of people that you run into, you're gonna find them, right? You're gonna see them. And my goal is like to convince them to be on my vision and pay them and just don't go, right? Like, and you know, so that going back to friends, like, when I find a good person, interesting, integrity, fun, open, vulnerable, I don't let go. Yeah. You have to scrape me off. I'm like, hey, come on, let's hang out, let's go here, let's go on a trip, like, come whatever, let's talk. Like, I try and like bring them into the group, right? And so the same thing when you're running a company, you'll find that star, right? That's like,
and you just know.
You just know. You're just like, wait, how'd you do this? Why did that happen? Oh, you learned this, and you learned this thing to do, and you're like, this is the person. Do not let them go. Find places for them to be in charge. Yeah. Right. And these people, when you go on it externally, their resume kind of tells you that. You kind of see that, what type of person they are. But you bump into them, both as friends and as like coworkers or workers.
Yeah, my dad had a great saying that I paraphrase kind of, that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, kind of the opposite of what we say in finance, right? But it is true for humans. Usually what they've done in the past is some iteration of what they'll do in the future, not always. And so you look at their past, and then I think you can kind of predict the future in a lot of ways. What about, maybe last thing here, you are super giving. And I think last time I was at your house, you guys weren't even here. Somebody else was throwing a birthday party for
it might have been Luke's party.
Yeah, it was Luke's party.
Yeah.
Speaking of a bunch of PayPal guys, but it was, and so I texted you. I'm like, oh, I just realized this party's at your house. Where are you? I want to say hi. And you're like, oh yeah, we're in Aspen. Have a great time.
Yeah.
Like, is that something you've always been, just upfront and giving?
Yeah, we're pretty generous, and I think the best saying, I had a friend who, I have a friend. His name is Greg. And he crystallized it with this story. He took his brother, he's done very well. He took his brother skiing on a ski trip, and they had a hotel rooms, and he wanted to pay the hotel rooms. And his brother's like, no, I can't let you pay. He's like, let me pay. I make a lot of money. He's like, no, Greg, I can't let you pay. He goes, if I owned this house, and I invited you to stay, okay, would you be okay with that? And he goes, yeah, you wouldn't pay me any money? Yeah, I would be okay. He goes, if you owned it, yes, I would be happy. He says, then save me the $3 million from buying it and let me pay your bill for the hotel. And his saying is we buy stuff to give it away. And it's true. Like, I didn't buy this boat so I could be on this boat by myself. I bought this boat to share memories with my friends. I didn't buy this property to just sit out here like little Lord Fauntleroy in the castle. It's a memory maker for me and my friends and people that I meet. And it's an adult playground where people exchange ideas and enjoy their ride here on Earth. And so, I try and find those people and invite them. And then I'm like, if I'm not here and it's not a pain in the ass, I'm like, whatever, have fun, dude. That's why I bought it. You buy stuff to give it away.
Great line. All right, that's a wrap.
That I have it, you know that I got it. No need to look all in the bag. Starting like this because I work so hard. I'm the best. I only speak facts.
Coaches are important. I still have coaches. You have to believe in the end of your story.
This week's episode is a totally different format. It is going to be multiple billionaire guests that I'm lucky enough to now call friends or have had on the podcast, and we are going to have bite-sized, best-in-class information from each one of them. If you've ever wondered, how do billionaires make all their money? What secrets could I learn from them? Can I get a billionaire mentor? And what does it take to make that crazy level of cash?
How do you explain that at a very simplistic level, first principles thinking?
You say, what are our fundamental assumptions? What are we doing here?
Running my businesses like a coach would run a team, I became a lot more effective.
Where should a young builder start today?
You serve.
Would you tell them to go take active risk?
Well, first of all, the younger you are, the easier it is to take risks and use that to your advantage.
How do you know if you're moving fast enough on the decisions you want to make in life?
What happened if you thought about that idea 3 years ago? What if you executed on that? Where would you be now?
Welcome back to the Big Deal Podcast. I'm Codie Sanchez. This week is for you. Only the most tactical, most specific stories so that you can learn from these billionaires too, and you can steal my billionaire mentors. Next week, back to regularly scheduled programming with the fastest growing AI startup CEO out there. I'm going to save who it is. You guys could try to guess. But that episode is also amazing. And it turns out it's the next 2 weeks is only Billy's. So we're going to make a lot of money these next 2 weeks on the Big Deal Podcast. Let's get into it.
Coaches are important. I still have coaches. I have a swim coach.
You had a Navy SEAL live with you.
Coach. Because I wanted to get better at memorizing names. I wasn't great when I met people at remembering their names, so I brought a coach in to help me with that. I've had sales coaches. I've had coaches in so many areas of my life because I'm not great at everything. I want to go to people that are amazing at what they do. I live with Goggins. I lived on a monastery to get better at my spirituality. Investing in yourself to get better is so important. If you're working at an organization, two things. One, I think you should make yourself irreplaceable. That's really important. Then you have the leverage. You can't even fire me. I know everybody, every customer. I'm unfireable. Now you have some leverage, which I think is really important. And you should learn, network, and sponge as much, absorb, especially when you're young, as much as you can. Do everything. Learn everything. Gandhi said it best. He said, learn like you'll live forever, live like you'll die tomorrow. Oof. So you want to learn and keep getting better, in as many things as you can.
Do you have a particular way that you lead people? What do you think it is? Is it either you select these people who are going to be high performers, and so you have a selection bias? Or do you have a particular leadership style that you think enables other people to become something bigger?
I think that you have to put confidence in people. There are so many better. I honestly, Cody, I'm like back of the pack entrepreneur. I really am. There's so many amazing entrepreneurs. Like, I don't even put myself, that's not my strong suit. It's not.
Interesting.
It's not. I've had wins. I've had great partners. I've had good ideas, right time, right place. Like, a lot of things happened. But there's so many. I still go to so many entrepreneurs for advice. But I am good at giving people confidence and belief. Mm-hmm. And that's really important, because if you have to believe in the end of your story.
I think people have beat up this idea quite a bit, but first principles thinking, obviously categorized or created by Peter Thiel, but then you talk about a lot to this day, this idea of getting back to base level. How do you explain that at a very simplistic level, first principles thinking?
Yeah, and Bridgewater, by the way, was all about this as well, which is a very interesting hedge fund, right? It's the biggest hedge fund in the world. But it's really important. You've seen this in lots of areas where you go back and you say, what are our fundamental assumptions? What are we doing here? Like why? Like, what is our firm the best at? Why is there an opportunity here? What are we gonna, like, what's our core capabilities, right? These are really philosophical questions as well, as how do you break down the frameworks for who you are? And then say, okay, given these are our core capabilities, what are the juxtaposed areas, what are the areas next to it that we can go into that are similar? And it's a really good exercise to keep coming back to, because it reminds you of things. This is why building a deck is really good for an entrepreneur, even if it's a small business, is you want to put together, here's 10 pages on who I am, what I'm doing, what the goals are, why it's going to be successful. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs say, oh, well, I'm just so smart and fast, and why would I do this stupid thing that's for stupid people? It's not for me. And it's for everyone, because everyone needs to get back to the core of like exactly like what and why and who and how. And sometimes those principles, you'll notice, have actually changed in a way. Maybe you intuitively realize one of them's changed, but you don't really find it until you go back and actually write it down. So it's just such a helpful thing. And, as a founder, I really admire the founders, not just of companies, but, the founders of America as well. And the founders of America were really clear about their principles. Yeah. And we're very, very lucky about that. There's all sorts of debates. There's all sorts of writings from that time. I grew up reading something called the London Magazine, which is the founders of America, and the people, running things in Parliament and everything would write it and argue back and forth, even as you have all these primary sources of what was going on. And it was the Enlightenment kind of just happened over the last 100 years. And it was really a time where people were really focused on principles in society and what's correct. And so it was a great intellectual breeding ground for founding something like America. But I find founders in general who are the best are similar to the American founders, like really debate these things and really come back to them. And that it kind of refreshes and renews what you're doing.
Yeah. It also seems like you have to repeat yourself very, very often as a founder. And so
you do, because you need to make sure people understand the vision of what's going on. I remember early on at Palantir, we'd walk around and talk to a bunch of the engineers helping me recruit, and what's the mission to you in your words? Why are you excited about it in your words? When you're talking to your smartest friends, and we're going to go over to Stanford or MIT or wherever else we're going to go and recruit, like tell me as if I'm one of them. Let's talk about it, let's practice. And it's helpful. You got to do that.
I think it comes from really how I was raised. I mean, on a farm, you are raised in that situation. You don't have any guarantees, and you figure it out, and you work hard until it's done. And I think just that tenacity really saw me through a lot. And, certainly building a career from Wall Street now into the cabinet, from rural America, I think that just really taught me to dig in, keep going, keep learning, and keep the curiosity about how things work, and keep asking questions, and never accept the first no.
Yeah, you seem like, when we were talking kind of behind the scenes, you're like, I like it. I want to be in there. I want to be like making a difference. And I was like, wasn't it scary to run for Senate? That sounds horrifying. You were like, no, like put me in, coach. So you got a little of that inner psychopath. I'm into that.
Yeah.
What about, so you owned an MBA, a WNBA team, which
seems incredibly hard in just every aspect, not as much funding, lower ticket sales, and then there was inner turmoil in the WNBA. What was the hardest moment for you running that business?
Well, I think the biggest decision came when my business partner and I, we were 50-50 owners, but before that, we were minority owners. And there came a point where the majority owner decided to sell, and we had to look at each other and say, do we want to step up and be 50-50 owners? And I was running a big part of our publicly traded company at the time, and I had to have confidence in the team that we brought on to really run that business day to day, and also the funding. I mean, it was, it's not an inexpensive endeavor to sink money into that every single year.
Was it public how much that was?
No, but it's a couple million. And it was, we'd hoped to be able to get it to break even. But to the point, back then, the bigger decision was to say, is this a go or no go? And I believe that when life opens a door for you, and to walk through it, and that life had opened a door for me as a professional sports team owner, and walking away at that time didn't seem like a good option. And I'm really glad we walked through it. We owned the team for a decade. And it was very grassroots. In fact, I was working with a reporter one time and pitching a story. I mean, I was, making sure that we got the visibility. I had this vision because of what I'd seen living in Chicago during the Bulls run in the 90s. And I thought, my goodness, I see what sports do for a community. They really bring it together. And I think Atlanta could be a great sports town. And so we invested on that basis to not have this as a hobby, but to make this a business and a great community contribution. And we were so glad that we walked through that door and did that for a decade for our fans, for our community, to elevate the sport. And it turned out to be such a good, I learned so much being a sports team owner that applied to business. Because in business, sometimes you can kick the can on a problem. In sports, you can't do that.
Why? Everybody's just yelling at you all the time?
Well, because in sports, the scoreboard shows the results every single day. The ticket sales show the results every single day. The coaching shows the results. And so you have to make those decisions game time. And so I started doing that in business, running my businesses like a coach would run a team. And I became a lot more effective, decisive, and not afraid about what decisions were around the next corner. It just really emboldened me to make those decisions and keep going.
Where should a young builder start today?
Well, I mean, the first thing that, and I just talked to our team about it this morning in a staff meeting, reminding them yet again, one of our core values here is, if you help enough people, you don't have to worry about money. So too many times when we start something, we are enamored with our own idea, our own ability, and the idea is the thing rather than the customer. Mm. And what I want to do is I want the person that is not inside the building to be blessed, to be changed, to be served, to have their mind blown. The people inside the building all get their mind blown? Not so much. Not so much. That doesn't do anything. What happens is when all those people out there all over the world, I get the opportunity to help one of them with their budget. I get the opportunity to help one of them with their marriage. I get to help one of them with their spiritual walk. I get to help one of them with their small business. When they, and so we don't build anything for us. We build everything for them. And when you first start, that's not natural. That's paradoxical, because you're kind of into what you're doing, and you're like, oh, I'm kind of good at this, and this is kind of cool. And it was for me anyway. And so when I did the first cassette tapes or VHS tapes, I was like, wow, look at that guy. He's funny and he's good. And it kind of started coming to me, no one cares except your mama and your wife.
And they also don't.
And they don't care that much. So, it's like, but I think that's a thing. Serve. And if you can find a way to make other people's life better and let them be the hero in the story, as my friend Donald Miller says. You don't have to be the hero, you can be the guide. And, that kind of stuff, it just makes you have a good quality life, and you've got a good philosophical, spiritual underpinning to your business then that you can, okay, we're about service. And when you interact with an organization, a business that is about themselves, you feel the take rather than the give. And when you interact with a company that is all about service, you come away with your mind blown because they're fairly rare.
How did you get comfortable with risk, or how do you think about risk, especially for young people who maybe haven't had a chance to take it yet? And would you tell them to go take active risk?
Well, first of all, the younger you are, the easier it is to take risk, right? And use that to your advantage. I started my first company when I was 17. And I was in college I was just entering college. And I think I had this mindset that I have this thing, college, right? And I could do that well. And as long as I'm doing that well, my parents will be okay. So let me go take as much risk as I can take outside of school. And let me go try different things. And I didn't have kids. I didn't have to, I was working and paying some of my own bills at the time, but I had, my parents were supporting me. And I used that as an excuse to take more risk. And I think the older you get, the harder it is to take risk. And risk is like a muscle, right? It's like the younger you try new things, and the earlier you sort of train your mindset to know that I'm going to do something, and if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, that's still okay too, because I'm going to learn from that and I'm going to leverage that into the next thing.
How do you think about speed and moving fast? And how do you know if you're moving fast enough on the decisions you want to make in life?
Well, first I want to say, not a dream crusher. I just want to hold you accountable to your best self, right? You definitely had all the ingredients as somebody I would want to bet on. And your dreams, your ideas were much bigger than that. You weren't thinking bigger. I told you at the time, I said, the money is easy. It's having an idea that you can execute on. There's tons of money. There's tons of rich guys that don't want to work. They just want to invest in somebody and make a good return. The question is, how do we find these executors? And when we find them, they dump cash into them and they go golfing or flying or doing whatever they want to do. And so I wanted you to think big, because it wouldn't be hard for you to raise money, right? After you went around, you were trying to cram me down because these other guys want to come in and this guy want to come in. I'm like, no, that guy can't get in, right?
That didn't happen.
What happened if you thought about that idea 3 years ago? What if you executed on that, a little bit faster? What if you, thought a little bit bigger and moved a little bit faster? Where would you be now? How big would this conference be? How many people would be knocking down your door to figure out how you did it? And so, we're human beings. We're not institutions. We don't live that long. And there's periods in our life. And I just think that life in itself is urgent and important. And your dreams are important. And that advantage of action, speed implies action. You're not just speed running around in a circle. You're moving towards your dreams. And so it's almost taking yourself serious and your dreams seriously by executing. What else should you be doing, right, according to your values? And so I think it's very important. And it's, my willingness to take risk and my ability or my willingness to move quickly towards my goals are the only advantages I have.
I was just looking, and it looks like more than 50% of you are not subscribed to the Bigdeal podcast. When you subscribe, first of all, it means we get to bring you bigger and better guests. It's also the #1 way you can support this podcast. If you liked it today, subscribe on whatever channel that you're listening to. And I want to tell you something firsthand. You become whatever you allow into your attention span. And what I hope you feel from us every single day is that I value your attention and your time more than anything else. I promise to only bring you things that are going to make you more money. They're going to make you more motivated to make your life better. So give me a little solid here. Subscribe to the channel. This is how we grow. Also, leave me a review on what you want better and who you want on. I promise you will do it. Hey, if you're a business owner right now and you like the things you were hearing on this podcast, I have something that I haven't talked about publicly before that's just for you. It's called our SMB Boardroom. This is for small business owners who want to grow. It is for business owners who are on their way to making at least 7 figures a year. If this is you, hit the link down below. Talk to our team. This is the place that can be your late night emergency call for the things that go bump in the night in your business. If right now you feel like you're plateauing or you feel like you don't know how to handle your growth, we got you. So click the link below, SMB Boardroom. We just built it for you builders. Kind of obsessed with it. And I think if you are a builder, there's no place you're going to want to be except here. Hey guys, if you've ever thought about buying a business, we've built what I think is the best acquisitions and business buying community and education curriculum in the world. If you've ever thought about wanting to buy or own a business, or if you want to add more businesses to the mix, it's called the Contrarian Community. And what this is the goal is we give you the 3 things that the best business buyers use: your own advisory team, your own investment committee, and a deal team. We get together each week to review deals live and beat up all the deals that you're currently looking at while you simultaneously learn the best way possible, which is called modeling, by seeing other people put together deals. This is how private equity buys businesses. This is how investment teams work. And we're stealing the methods from Wall Street and giving them to you. If this is interesting to you, go to click the link and you can actually talk to my team direct about if this is a fit or not. We can help guide you. The link is in the show description.
The average marketing major makes somewhere between $60,000 to $80,000 a year. The average skilled trades worker after they graduate can make upward of $75,000 to $100,000 a year. Does every kid have to go to university? Student debt in the U.S. is at all-time high record levels. You had gone to college, you paid all this money, you had these fancy jobs, and then you're like, the thing is, well, I want to go be a window cleaner. Like, moms don't love that.
The tide is turning in this country, and people are starting to realize sitting in the office all day isn't for me.
For a lot of people, it doesn't make them happy being behind a screen. Why does it feel like we're working harder and we're getting no further in this country? What the fuck's going on? Hey, it's Codie Sanchez, and welcome back to the Bigdeal podcast. For those who don't just want to be rich, but free and do what it actually takes to get there. I love this podcast because I love talking to friends about how they made their millions and helping business owners solve their problems. It's fulfilling. I love sharing all the secrets. But when I can't meet in person, there's only one tool I use. It's called Riverside. Riverside ensures I can talk to someone anywhere in the world, recorded in 4K, so the quality of the video matches the quality of the humans you're listening to. Riverside records separate audio and video tracks so we can easily cut out those awkward interruptions that are my least favorite part of interviews. They have in-platform editing software based off a 99% accurate AI transcription. And if that's not simple enough, they take AI one step further for their show notes. It summarizes your entire content into an SEO optimized description and chapters, all automatic, saves me a ton of money. So you can use Riverside for podcast interviews, panel discussions, presentations, webinars, more. And best of all, it's simple. Try Riverside for yourself with link in the description. Use code CODY for an exclusive discount. I get a deal, you get a deal. The contrarian idea this week is that blue-collar workers might actually be happier than white-collar workers. And what if they're actually starting to make more money? There's this quote from Mike Rowe that I loved that said, people in trade work are balanced people who do unthinkable work. And they have this amazing sort of symmetry to their life because of it. And Mike Rowe should know because he ran dirty jobs for, I don't know, probably a decade. And the research actually goes to show that 86% of blue-collar workers are satisfied with their jobs. So they're not only happier, I think a lot of them are probably more skilled in their fields than white-collar workers today. Let's look at the data. And we found some really interesting things when it comes to, are you happier if you work with your hands versus not? So are you happier being traditionally blue-collar versus white-collar? And the statistics are actually fascinating. Like, for instance, 86% of blue-collar workers are satisfied with their jobs in this survey. You can see it linked below. In fact, a bunch more people are applying for trade schools instead of vocational schools, more than 16% increase in vocation-focused community colleges since 2018. And, you know, there was this quote from this guy, Alex Cohen, that I just loved. We can throw it up on the screen here, basically, that said, the average blue-collar trade worker is 10x more skilled than the average FANG product manager. Now, I mean, skilled is in the eye of the beholder, but this hit home for me because student debt in the U.S. is at all-time high record levels. We are having universities funded by our parents' tax dollars, our tax dollars, while we spend our lives paying them off because it is the only type of debt that is non-recourse, meaning that if you go bankrupt, guess what? Your student loan debt follows you. Yet we have told an entire generation or two or three of kids that the only way for them to progress in society is for them to go to traditional universities that cost tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to get the good white-collar job that your parents didn't have because they actually spent their time trying to make your life better. And so they worked hard so you have an easier life, right? That's what my parents always told me. And yet we're getting out of these four-year institutions and we're in a 9-to-5 that is really like an 8-to-7, commuting longer distances than ever. The average commute has increased by 30% in the U.S. since 2020, and increasingly not making more money with wages stagnating as well for most white-collar workers. So I started to dive into what the fuck's going on and why does it feel like we're working harder and we're getting no further in this country? And I think one of the reasons is this. We were told white-collar jobs were good, and yet were we just a cog in a machine? And so we went to the data and we found out a couple of different things that are fascinating. One, that 86% of blue-collar workers are happy with their job. They're happier on average than white-collar workers, who 50% on average say that they do not like their jobs. We're finding, in fact, that these trade and vocational schools have a stigma with the younger generations, that 74% perceive that vocational schools over a traditional four-year university are a good idea. And that 79% of people said their parents wanted them to go to college, while only 5% say they wanted them to go to vocational school. So our parents are telling us, go rack debt. The government's saying your tax dollars are going to go towards universities, but you don't really get any benefit of that. The universities get to increase their prices by double digits every year. And oh, by the way, you're going to have to pay it off for, 5 or 10 years on average, and be happy about it because now you're educated and you're going to have all this opportunity. The contrarian idea this week is that you'd be better off going to a vocational school. That's the idea. That in fact, it seems like they're happier. And look at the average wage between a marketing grad at an average institution and a skilled trades worker from a vocational school. The average marketing major makes somewhere between $60,000 to $80,000 a year. The average skilled trades worker after they graduate can make upward of $75,000 to $100,000 a year. So if you're happier and you make more money and you get a little bit more vitamin D and less LED blue screen, I think there might be something here. And I realized this week because I went to a coal mine with a couple friends of mine where I went, 650 feet down, 4 miles underground. There's only 2 entrances into the coal mine. And going in, I had all these ideas, you guys, God, these poor guys. This looks like such hard work. Are they safe? Am I going to be safe down there? Can't believe we're still doing this. Can't machines do it? Then the weirdest thing happened. First of all, one of the miners, when I was down there, when I asked him, I said, hey, why do you do this? And he said, well, I've been doing it more than 30 years. And I said, okay. What made you want to do it? He said, well, my dad did it. I said, all right, that makes sense. You followed in your father's footsteps. And he goes, yeah, but it's more than that. Let me tell you why. Now, right before this giant machine had plowed through a wall. It's called cross punching. So imagine the ceiling's only 5.5 feet tall. You have to walk. It's called a coal miner's walk. You walk hunched over to the side with your head down and to the left and your hands behind your back to support your hips. And so I'm hunched over, walking 4 miles in underneath the ground, 650 feet below the surface, thinking that this place was a little dark and scary. And then this huge machine claws through a wall across from me and punches through, collecting coal, sort of sparking a little bit, and this wild noise and the ground shaking. And then it pulls back and it grabs the coal back into it. And when I talked to the coal miner right after we had seen this, he said, you know why I do this? Do you know why I work in the coal mines? He goes, go stand over there. So I walk over 5 feet where the machine had just been. And he said, that ground that you're standing on right now, no man has ever stood there before. You know who else can say that? Astronauts. He goes, some people go to the sky, some people go underground. 2 different types of explorers. And I thought about that as I was watching these guys. You get a little dirt on your face. You've got these big, huge machines. They're pretty big guys with lots of muscles. Now they're quiet. I went over to a group of them and I was joking with them and said, you guys want a picture? And they kind of smiled and looked at me and looked away because they didn't. And when I talked to one of the lead foremen, let's call him, I said, they're kind of quiet guys. They don't say a ton. And he said, well, have you met a lot of farmers? We don't say many words. We just do many tasks. And the coal mine was sort of filled with these short, crisp sentences, the likes of which those of us who podcast and talk all day for a living on Zoom and have turned into knowledge workers where the words that come out of our mouth equate to the amount of money we make. We don't understand this world. We don't understand a world in which somebody would point and tell you that I do this job because no man has ever walked there before, and really say nothing else besides that. And, as I was talking to another group of them about what's happening down below, they said, where else besides the military can you find a group of hardened men doing hard things together, where one decision impacts every other human, and thus you have to operate as a team and as a unit as opposed to an individual? How many of you feel more connected than ever? Like you've got a tribe, an incredible community of people, like you're never alone, like you're not isolated, like you wish you could be on your phone more. I think the answer is not very many of us feel like that. These guys had this community built in. I remember a quote, the fastest way to long friendships are hard times. The fastest way to short friendships are meaningless times. It's probably why your high school friends, your college friends kind of come and go. It was short, sweet, beautiful moments, not iron sharpens iron. I thought about that a lot with these coal miners. And as I went deeper, a few other things came to mind. These guys do this job for 30 40, 50 years or more. They don't retire. And I asked one of them why, and he said, you'd have to pull my cold, dead body out of here. And he said, because in a world where we're all stuck to our phones, you can't get service down here. So you're down there for 10-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts sometimes, no service whatsoever. Like, can you guys imagine a more different life? And yet, I was talking to another guy who they call Strawberry, and his statement was fascinating. He's like, if you watch news stories about us, it's about how dangerous it is, about how bad it is. I bet if you tell your friends you went down to a coal mine, they're going to say, well, was it toxic? Well, did they have problems with coal dust? They won't realize that 1/3 of the world is driven by energy derived from coal. So you turn off coal mining and you take away 1/3 of the world's energy. Think about that for a second. And in a part of Appalachia where the average income is below poverty level, coal miners make 6 figures a year. An incredible job that's hard and dirty. But just because it's hard and dirty, does that mean it's bad? When did clean fingernails equate to happy lives? And I think the point of the matter is here that they might not. I want you to speak to Brandon, who is the founder of a company that I am now one of the biggest investors in. I just bought a company called Resi Brands that I co-own now with the founders. And it's a franchise company for people doing trade labor. And I want you to hear from Brandon something that I've realized and become really passionate about, that the dirty work is often the important work.
Bring the band in. Let's go.
Brandon, I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
I think we were sold a lie that being vitamin D deprived keyboard monkeys was the way to go, that we wanted to sit and excel behind a screen in a cubicle working for somebody else all day, when in reality, there might be more joy found outside. I wasn't sure though. Then I started meeting people like you. So really quickly, tell them where you came from and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. My career started, went to University of Arkansas, graduated there in 2017, and went straight into corporate world. Walmart headquarters in Bentonville, Arkansas. There's no windows at the headquarters. They're working on it. They're building a new campus, but that's soon. From there, I knew I wanted to be there, but I knew it wasn't for long term. So I came back to Austin, jumped into the financial world, kind of like you, kind of in an analyst role, and I was in an office by myself all day, and it was tough. And I knew that wasn't it for me either. This is like classic millennial, right? Jumped then to the live music business. That was in December of 2019 and got laid off 6 months later because COVID, live music doesn't work. That's when Pinks was started in June of 2020. You're absolutely right. Like, the cool jobs coming out of college are the commercial real estate jobs, being a lawyer, being a doctor, doing whatever. And there's something wrong with those jobs. It just wasn't for me. So within 2 months of starting Pinks and Carter and I buzzing around town in an 04 Chevy Tahoe, just cleaning windows.
Yeah, explain to him what Pinks is, because you're wearing, like, if you guys could see him on YouTube, he's looking fly right now. He's got on what I actually said to Carter. I was like, yeah, this is a great hipster uniform. He was like, excuse me, this is timeless. This is timeless. And it is. It's like what I would describe as sort of a classic, maybe 1950s inspired, 1960s inspired tradesman uniform that's beautifully designed for a window cleaning service that you two started.
That's exactly right. And that was the whole purpose of Pinks, is we wanted to flip the script on blue collar. So yeah, you're exactly right. Pinks we're a window cleaning company. We do exterior cleaning, pressure washing, gutter cleaning, soft washing, all of that. And basically started just Carter and I buzzing around town, doing it all the work ourselves. Within 2 months of us starting this exterior cleaning company, branding it out because we knew we wanted to flip the script on blue collar and tell a different story that, hey, this is a great job. It's fun. It's cool. Within 2 months of us starting it, we told ourselves, if our old jobs call us back and offer us a job back with even double the salary, we're not going back.
We're telling her to pound sand.
Yeah.
Wait a second. So what did your moms say when you told them that you were leaving? You had gone to college, you paid all this money, you had these fancy jobs, and then you're like, the thing is, Mom, I want to go be a window cleaner. Like, moms don't love that.
No. Well, our moms are amazing, and they were supportive from the very beginning. It was a lot of our mentors that told us, hey, when are you going to get a real job? Hey, like, do you really want to spend your 40 hours cleaning windows and power washing driveways? And we had to fight that. And we were super insecure to start off because we bought that lie that the good job is commercial real estate guy, the finance guy, the lawyer guy, whatever. And we had to get over ourselves, and we had to die to ourselves, die to our pride, to really believe what we were doing, that without the blue collar services, our cities would be an absolute mess.
Absolutely.
And so
fair.
I think we said that at the very beginning, but we didn't actually believe it till 3 months in.
Yeah. Well, what was interesting is I rode around with you guys and, cleaned some windows. I think I did a pretty good job, actually.
You were amazing.
And what I noticed, and we've felt it here even before, is we'll do, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours of work in the office here. Even podcasting, which people think is fun, and it is.
Yeah.
And then we will get out to film YouTube videos in the street.
Right.
It's in Austin. It's 102 degrees outside. We're sweating, makeup running off my face. And it's my favorite time of the day.
Yeah.
Because there is just nothing like being around other humans, actually moving your body and doing things. And I think we've forgotten that in this country. And, I think the interesting part is you could say, well, maybe Brandon and Carter are just weirdos. And these,
we're super weird.
You are kind of weird. But, 2 young, good-looking dudes, full capacity, intelligent, deciding to go in the trades, they must be weird. But then you've sort of amassed an army of people just like you.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the guy I met yesterday, the former Marine, who's now my best bud. You've brought other young men on who are skilled, and they're thrilled to be part of cleaning windows, which people might not even believe.
Yeah, the tide is turning in this country, and people are starting to realize maybe sitting in the office all day isn't for me. I just think about how we're created as human beings. We're designed to connect. We're not designed to just sit in a room by ourselves or work from home and just be in our room all day by ourselves, behind a 11-inch screen. That's why we created Pinks. That's why we're franchising the business, because we want to get people out of that. But as far as our laborers go, whether it's our franchisees or guys in the field, the personality is guys that said, hey, they're young dudes, college isn't for me, I want to do something different. Maybe they worked in a coffee shop or in a restaurant, but they're tired of showing up to the same place, interacting with the same kitchen staff every single day. While at Pinks and with a lot of other service companies, you have a lot of freedom. You get to get in the car, you're not with your boss, you get to buzz around town, help customers, you kind of own the relationship, and you get to make people happy by giving stellar service all over the city or all over the town. It's yours, and then you get tipped, and then you get to go wherever you want for lunch. And it's a great situation.
Yeah, you guys do a lot of stuff that I think is cool that usually tech companies did, which is you give guys some cash for lunch. They get to go wherever they want in town, but talk about why you do it from a couple different perspectives.
For sure. From a monetary perspective, we say $15 a day per guy, and it's so good for culture. Because normally a service member or service company guy, they pack their lunch, or one guy goes to McDonald's, one guy packs lunch, and they're not eating together.
They're just in the car.
Yeah.
It's hot. They're not engaging.
Or one guy's inside eating at McDonald's, one guy's in the truck eating a sandwich he brought.
Yeah.
We want the guys to commune together because, again, it's a core belief. We design, we're supposed to be together. We're better together than apart. Also, just what it does for our workers, when we pay for their lunch, it shows that we care. And it's just one less decision that they have to make for the day.
Yeah.
We try to just limit the decisions that they have on their plate. And it's just great for retention. It's good for so many reasons. I think we spent $40,000 on lunches last year, but it's worth every damn penny because our guys stay, they like what they do, they feel a freedom. And one of the best parts is when guys come into a restaurant wearing the Pinks get up, it's marketing.
Yeah.
We get a lot of clients just from guys buzzing around town, eating lunches at places, wearing the uniform.
One of our sayings is you want to get paid like a pro, dress like a pro.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that has been lost in trades and services is we've lost the pro mentality.
Right.
And so I think this idea of dressing a certain way, if you want to be taken a certain way, is really critical. The human brain gauges people in less than a millisecond. And so in less than 1 second, you have a chance to have your very first impression. And if your first impression is, I've got on this kind of smart, cool uniform, and I take care of myself personally, and I've got this cool car behind me, well, then you're probably going to attract a different level of person.
Every interview we do, we're wearing this.
Yeah.
And it sets a tone for our employees. But also when our employees put on the uniform, it does something for them mentally.
Yeah.
It's I'm showing up. It's time to work. I got the uniform on. It's time to get to it.
I wonder how much of that is also like similar to the military, actually, you know, because my husband, obviously in the military for a long time, and I used to joke with him and call it an outfit. And he was like, just kind of got to him. And he was like, this is a uniform. And he kind of explained to me what a uniform meant. He's like, when I am wearing this, I am a representative of the armed forces. And it means something to be able to wear this uniform. Like we screen for it and there's a reputation associated with it. And I think often in the era post 2020 of COVID, where we all wore pajamas for most of our year, we've lost that, right? Like you forget what it means to put on something that changes you into a different character for a moment.
Absolutely. And it builds so much trust within yourself, trust that, hey, my team member's wearing the same thing as me, and then trust in the community.
Yeah.
People know the Pink's uniform, and when our guys show up, they know they're going to get a friendly person that's on time, that is reliable, and that is background checked.
Let's talk about your worst day as a Pink's employee. Like I think sometimes we can cherry pick things. Like there is a lot of very hard things about the trades and doing things with your work and manual labor. Like give the tough side of it too, the cons.
Oh my gosh. So many tough days. Whether just like the physical labor of it, where you're up at 7 or 6 on a job site, on a construction site, but you're getting held up because you didn't go through the safety protocol with the superintendents, and now you have to sit there for 2 hours and just wait and go through this stupid training. That is a terrible day. Also, when it's 110 outside and you know you have 5 hours of work left and you're chafing and it sucks and it's hot and the customer's picky, that's no fun. I would say one of our hardest days, but then that turned good, was when it was at the very beginning. We were at one of Carter's friend's house. We drove all the way to Houston to clean a house because, early on, you'll take any job.
Yeah.
And so we drove to Houston, and we were cleaning one of Carter's friends from high school's houses. And he was in the commercial real estate world, and he was working from home because it was in the heat of COVID. And both of us, as we're cleaning basically a peer's house, felt super insecure. This guy is in his home office, beautiful house in the Heights, and he's like cranking away on calls and emails. And we are like, excuse me, can I clean the window behind your desk? And all that. So we get back in the car, and both of us express this insecurity we felt. And it was a low. We're like, man, he's crushing it, doing these commercial real estate deals, and we are cleaning his house while he's working. So we drove home, and as we're driving, we're just like thinking, like talking to each other, praying, and we're just like, man, how cool is it that we got to add value to someone's house? How many of our friends can say that they got to add value to their buddy's house and like do him like a favor, like do a service for him that was efficient, affordable, and that he needed and wanted? And so from that moment, like that low day, we kind of flipped it in our brains and said, actually, like we're all in on this thing. Like we can do this. We're proud of what we do. We're proud to help a friend. What's wrong with being a janitor? There's nothing wrong with it. And that's when it, like the bad day and the bad mental state flip for us is, like we've been talking about this whole time. We've been sold this lie that if you're in lawn maintenance, if you're a window cleaner, if you're a painter, if you're whatever, you're a second tier citizen.
Yeah.
And it was that day that we believed, like, actually, this is amazing, this is useful, and we get to help people all over the city.
I was listening to a story the other day about Japan, and there are some cities in rural Japan that are shutting down because they don't have communal services, even just like a butcher shop.
Right.
They're missing like one butcher shop, and because of that, they can't get the core services they need. And so people are leaving cities entirely, which means the real estate that they have spent up their livelihood to afford is now worth nothing because there's no community around them. In this world where we're just starting to realize that a little bit of ownership, that a job that doesn't turn you into a robot, that having a community and a team and doing work that matters is actually the path to happiness.
So important.
Yeah, is rare. But I think your generation, do you think your generation gets it more than mine? You're like one generation below me. Are you seeing other people your age start to understand this?
We're seeing a lot of our friends start service companies.
Yeah.
Because they realize, one, I can make just as good, if not better money than if I was working in an office. Yeah. And two, I have so much more freedom over my life. And I feel like people nowadays, they're so tied to purpose, like purpose being tied to their work. If you like have a purpose-driven lifestyle, you're going to be way happier. we don't clean windows just to clean windows because we're so like passionate about cleaning windows, but we are passionate about helping our city, maintaining our city, and making customers really happy and excited. That's what drives us every day. It's not just cleaning for the sake of cleaning, but it's cleaning for the sake of the customer, cleaning for the sake of the betterment of our city and the prosperity of our city.
Do you remember what your worst day was when you were employed before you did Pinks?
Oh, man. I try to say no bad days, but that's just not true. I think it was when I was working in a financial firm and I was like an analyst and kind of just putting spreadsheets together. But I remember like most Sundays, I would get the Sunday scaries.
Yeah.
I bet a lot of people listening feel that. And you're just like, gosh, I feel like there's more for me. So like there's not one specific day, but there was that feeling that I had every Sunday, every Monday, like I was a weekend warrior. I was just waiting for the weekend because then I was off. And I knew like deep in my heart that what I was doing was not it. Operating at what I felt was like 50% capacity of my brain and not feeling a lot of purpose, and then just being locked in the office every day. Like it was hard days. I would call my mom and she'd be like, hey, how's work? How's work, Brandon? And I would just kind of lie to her. I'd say, oh, Mom, it's great. It's fine. But mommies, they got those spidey senses. She knew that I was struggling.
Yeah.
And she knew when to press. She knew when not to press. But she knew that I was in a tough place because I just wasn't fulfilled with work for the purpose, like from a purpose perspective, but also from I am not firing on all cylinders in my brain. I'm only using half of what I feel like I have up there.
Yeah.
And those days were not fun.
You guys, as far as I understand it, you had a chance to sell the business entirely.
Yeah.
Like you could have pretty much kind of sold, moved on.
Right.
And you had some different options on the table. But instead of selling overall, you said, actually, we just want to bring more people into the fold.
Right.
We want, we're good at cleaning windows. That's what we like to do. We're good at branding and we like leadership.
Yeah.
And, maybe we don't know how to build a national business. And so you partnered with the company that I invested in, right? Regal Resolve. A lot of people, if they would have gotten a chance to maybe have some sort of bigger exit, they might have taken it. And people listening to you might be thinking, well, maybe he's just going to clean windows for a minute and then he's going to leave and he's going to go become a venture capitalist.
Right.
But you actually had a little bit of a window where something like that could have happened.
Sure.
Why continue to own the franchise locally too?
Yeah.
Actually go out into the field like I've seen you guys, get dirty like you do. Why keep doing that as opposed to cash out in some way, shape, or form?
One, we love our team.
Yeah.
Like here locally, like Pink's Austin is our baby. And we love our team. They do such a good job. And it's a fun mentorship opportunity. Business, we are in the people business and we love people, whether it's our customers or our employees. So we want to stay tied to that. That's like from a purpose perspective. It also prints cash, which also doesn't suck. We want to keep owning Pink's Austin because it just spits us cash every single month. And that's a great part of the income. The reason we wanted to partner with Resi Brands is because we feel like we are flipping the script on blue collar, trying to make it cool, trying to add purpose to it, trying to just brand it out. Like we said, like flip the script on blue collar. Resi Brands is doing that in franchising. I feel like 5 years ago, franchising, it was kind of for like the weirdo. Oh, you wanted this franchise?
Or like a
franchise?
McDonald's crumble cookie or something terrible for society, right? Like, yeah.
What Resi's doing with the support for the franchisee, the Connect Center, the marketing team, all that, it's so good for the franchisee.
Yeah, you guys are the ones that introduced me to them. And I remember texting you on this. I was like, what do we think about these guys? Yeah. Like, let's have them download. And you told us. But I think the other part is like owner-operators. When I first met you guys, I was like, oh, they're in it. They get it. And Steven's the same way. He's like, I did this for 11 years before I started franchise.
That's why we love Steven.
Yeah, he's in the game. And the other thing that's fascinating, Brandon, is like how many of the people in your group and his are faith-based?
A good amount. We're not like so like outward and like pushy about it.
Of course, yeah.
But if people ask about it, like we're not going to shy away. It's like, yeah, like we love Jesus.
Yeah.
And like God gives us purpose and we're all in. And those principles of being honest, doing the right thing, like being faithful with a little so that we can be faithful with a lot. Whatever resources we get, being a wise steward of them, like that just makes sense. That's good business practice. It happens to be in the Bible too. It works really well.
Were you dating? It's now your fiance, right?
Yeah, Kelsey.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
She's adorable. Were you dating her before you started Pinks?
No, we started dating.
So you met her after you were a window cleaner?
After.
Was that hard? Was it like, did that hurt your social capital at all, basically?
Before I started Pinks, I feel like in the dating world, I was like less confident because I didn't have my career figured out. But it just turned out I was insecure. But when we started Pinks, we got over ourselves. I got over myself and just died in my pride. I feel like I gained confidence. And I was like, yeah, I'm a window cleaner. What's wrong with it? And it helped me in the dating world. I mean, now I'm engaged, so it worked, I guess.
It looks like you do well. I think a lot of times, for men, good, bad, or the other ways, you're judged often on job and earnings.
Right.
That's at least historically how it's been. So the status games would happen on the male side. But then, I just had another friend of mine in here, Andrew Wilkinson, who you met, and he's always like, God, your husband's such a manly man. And I'm back here, a nerdy analyst. I think there is something really neat about the merging of the two, that you can have head, but you can also have, some dirty fingers.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, that's what I love about Pinks, or just the service business in general.
Yeah.
Is if I want to go clean windows every day, I can do that.
Yeah.
But also if I want to work on strategy and figure out a growth strategy to get Pinks up into the Northeast or the Pacific Northwest, I can do that. Or coach franchisees, just jump on a call and talk to a guy in Palm Beach, Florida.
Yes.
This morning. Just coaching him up on how to quote a building and how to overcome some customer objection. I love talking about the not being fully used, because I feel like that's so much of our generation is people that are just working in an office and they have, and they're probably working from home 3 days a week and they are not being fully used. Like they're working for really 3 hours a day, but they have to stretch out their work to make it an 8-hour day to make it look like to their boss that they're working. They got to appear online on Slack, so they're constantly moving their mouse and all that.
Wait, is that true? Is that something that you guys had where they were tracking what's your work?
Probably not officially they had that, but I think as an employee of a big corporation, and there's a tiered management system, it feels like that. Whether that's a reality or not, I don't know. But I always felt like, oh, I got to be online or else I'm going to get a slap on the wrist or
that's probably true. I think a lot of bosses probably go, what are you guys doing? And, get micromanaging about it. I know I've been there before too. And I think for a lot of jobs post the Industrial Revolution, where we became knowledge workers instead, we just flipped how we measure work. And so now, instead of measuring output, we didn't take the time to figure out how to measure output for knowledge workers. So we just said time.
Yeah.
We said, no matter what, no matter the output, your time has to be dedicated for this allotment.
Right.
This generation and mine are probably the first two generations that have fully felt this idea of knowledge work.
Yeah.
And to be candid, I don't think it makes us happy. And I'm not sure that the tracking is working.
Yeah. I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
But you follow Naval?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So he was on a podcast. I forgot when it was. But something I love that he talked about in this knowledge base. Well, now all the knowledge that there is out there is on the internet.
Yeah.
Or you can just chat GPT, what's the best way to do this? Or so the knowledge is there. But in the coming years, what he says is the valued commodity amongst employees or workers or business owners, it's judgment. We all have access to the same information, but what are the decisions we make based on the information? So judgment and wisdom and discernment, that's what we want to be as Pinks. Is we all have, it's easy. It's easy to get the information. What are we going to do with it? And how is that going to influence our future, the business's future, our franchisees' future, our employees' future, all of that.
I love it. If people want to hear more from you, where do they go?
Pinks Windows. You can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn. We're still figuring out the Twitter thing. Maybe you can help with that.
Absolutely. I will help with that. Also, phone number on your forehead.
Yes, it is there. If you need a window cleaning quote, holler here.
Actually, we joke about this as, clothes as business cards, which I think is really underdone in the trades.
Right.
It's like handyman service. Well, that's not a great name because you're never going to remember it.
Right.
And I think the way that people have done this historically in the trades is they go cutesy or a goofy saying, if it's cold outside, we've got your dad joke, right? Insert dad joke. But you guys said, no, we're going to have a premium brand.
Absolutely.
And we're going to treat this just like we would Apple if we were an Apple computer, but we happen to clean windows.
That's right. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because there's a lot of new brands popping up. There's a lot of big cleaning companies. If you have the decision to make your brand on clip art or Microsoft Paint or whatever it is, or you have the opportunity to hire an agency or do it yourself or whatever, I want it to be good. Like, if we're going to build it, let's build it right. And no one else in the service business is doing it. That's why we branded it out. And honestly, like, all credit to Carter. Carter's like the creative.
Carter's a little bit of like a mad marketing genius, isn't he?
Yes.
Like,
just like
Instagram videos are incredible. I can't believe I'm saying this about a window cleaning video, but candidly, like Pink's, what is the Instagram handle?
Pink's Windows.
Pink's Windows. It's hysterical. Like, you guys have that one with the Brady Bunch. We can actually show it right here.
Yes.
And first of all, you're going to get a bunch of female clients because it's like a bunch of young, good-looking dudes. They're going to be wanting you to be sweating.
That took so long to film. It took like 5. It took way too long.
Oh, it's incredible. Like, you all pop up in them. And then the other thing I thought was brilliant that you guys did from a marketing standpoint was the free neighborhood clean.
Oh, the comp clean of the week.
Comp clean.
Yes. Basically, the comp clean is, it's just a way to bless our community, but also have some fun and film it. And bring, like, whenever we do a comp clean, we don't like to go to a big poppin' restaurant. We want to go to the small mom and pop that everyone in the neighborhood knows or drives by every day, but that may not know, like, what it is they serve at the restaurant or whatever. So we like to make fun, engaging content. It's become a thing where, like, we've cleaned Mountain Joy's tour bus.
Yeah.
I'm at ACL.
It's amazing.
We've done some stuff at Stubbs Barbecue, the venue.
Yeah.
For another band. And so it's kind of become this thing, but we still love the mom and pop.
Well, yeah, the comp clean, just so you guys know, you guys do free cleans for neighborhood restaurants, and then you film them in a really cool little way.
And edit it. It's like, it's so silly.
It's great.
Yeah.
You were also in a movie.
Yes. Yes, we were. We were in Hitman. Glenn Powell wearing her shirt, which is like, what the heck? It happened 2 years ago. A costume designer that Carter knew reached out to him and said, hey, here's the concept of Hitman. We need a service company, for a few minutes of the movie. Can we use Pinks? And of course, our answer was, hell yeah, use Pinks. Like, of course. And so we got a picture of Glenn Powell like 2 years ago wearing her shirt. And so we've just been sitting on it. And then it was released this past week.
Good things will take time, huh?
Yeah.
Did you get to go on set or no?
No, we shipped him a shirt and that was our involvement.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's some more movies, man. I appreciate you.
Hey, appreciate you. And like, that's the whole goal of Pinks is we try to flip the script on blue collar. When you think of window cleaning, or when whoever in New York City or LA or Chicago, or whoever thinks of window cleaning, we want you to think of one company, and that's Pinks. That's us. Because we're doing something different. We're bringing purpose and trying to flip the script.
Let's talk TikTokers and content for the deal of the week this week. This I thought was super interesting. So there's this girl that I follow, and she actually just got written up about in the Wall Street Journal. She's an electrician in Cornwall, New York, and she just shows like the day-to-day of what she does. And like, first off, she must be raking in so much money, because not only is she an electrician, you've been talking about how much money you can make doing this, but she's also making, and the Wall Street Journal said this, like $200,000 in like brand deals and things like that. So dual income, has a 9-to-5. Like, she seems like she's killing it.
The hashtag blue collar do 500,000 posts in the first 4 months of this year and is up 64% since 2023. It seems like blue collar is cool, basically, on TikTok. And that people, what it probably stems from. I mean, in a world where so many of us only know things like spreadsheets, computering, like cannot fix the oven if our life depends on it. Somebody who's capable with their hands. Let's watch this video really quick from Lex, the electrician, and see what's up. All right. Well, first of all, what you're seeing here is like a young woman. She's cute. She's got like cute but wholesome outfits on. She's serious. She's doing these like big commercial electrician looking jobs, like hauling huge cables. Got a little dance in there because it's the TikTok. Mm-hmm. Looks like she could electrocute herself at any time. Doing it with nails on, too, because that's what your generation is into. Like nails that look like you can't do anything with, but she's doing it with. And she's serious. Like, this is a serious professional out there doing her thing. And what I think is amazing about this is basically we're shedding some light on work that without which you and I could not be doing this podcast right now.
Oh,
somebody built these lines, somebody ran a bunch of cables, and because of that, we can do this. How can you not only do trade work, but skip college? So she's making, let's say she's probably making 6 figures in her electrician job.
She actually didn't even skip college. She went to pre-med for 2 years, got her associate's degree, and was like, I'm not a people person. And then
after her associate's degree stopped and became an electrician.
Fascinating.
And I wonder if I think she had family members that were electricians. And I think one good thing that's happening because TikTok and other social media platforms are kind of like amplifying blue collar work is it's showing people alternate job opportunities. Because my parents were great and they said if you want to go to vocational school, they were really, really into it. Where my mom lives, there's a pretty good program for people who want to become plumbers and electricians and things like that. But I feel like not that many people are given the opportunity or have parents or have anybody else that's telling them like, hey, these jobs are out there and they exist and they make good money.
My husband always says like his favorite time was doing hood rat shit with his friends, which means when he was in the military, like kicking down doors and shooting guns and, working out a lot. And I think for a lot of people, it doesn't make them happy being behind a screen. And so if we can now, you can't be what you can't see. If we can now see a bunch of people who are living lives where they make money with their hands, I think you're in my generation. I used to think, well, like, I guess you could be a physical trainer. That was like allowed if you wanted to do something with your body. You could be an athlete, you could be in the military.
Yeah.
But at least my generation, we didn't think about the trades. My father's generation, definitely different. So I love this. Lex, the electrician, you look like a stud. And maybe you guys on social tag me the best trade and vocational people that you see on the internet. I want to continue to highlight people like you because I think you guys are doing the work. To close out the episode today, there's a quote from Marcus Aurelius that says, "You can't be a good man if you are incapable of violence." And what did that mean? Well, Jordan Peterson actually said something similar, which is a harmless man is not necessarily a good man. That a man who can commit violence but chooses not to is truly a good man. And I think about that a lot with these trade workers and with those people who have decided to take the hardened path. That in fact, maybe it's being able to commit violence. It's being able to do the hard, but choosing the other that leads to happiness and a better society for us. So this week, I hope I made you think a little bit with this episode. And if you're a parent out there, maybe ponder this a little bit. Does every kid have to go to university? Do we have to pay into institutions continuously that put us in roles that increasingly don't make us happy and don't necessarily make us more money? Is that a good idea? I would love to hear from you guys in the comments. It's something that I think about a lot because I am a Monday morning quarterback with kids because I don't have any of them. But I wonder if one day when I have them, what will my decision be? Will I be okay if my kid wants to go clean windows? If they want to go work in a coal mine? If they want to do the hard and dangerous thing? Or do I only feel pride in them if they have a title of CEO or a title of doctor behind them and do some big mental gymnastics in order to have a career? I don't know the answer to that, but I know that it's a question worth asking. Thank you for being here today. I think you are a big deal. You are a big deal to me, and that is why we do this podcast. So if you haven't already, please give us a little review. I think it's time for the word to get out that just because you're a tech worker doesn't mean you're better than a trade worker. So if you agree with me, now's the time to share the pod and give us a review.
That I have it, you know that I got it. No need to look all in a bag. Stunting like this because I work so hard. I'm the best.